Thank you for joining Introduction to Microsoft Teams Assignments and Insights in Glow webinar. This is part of our digital pencil case series. This webinar is a green digital pencil case, indicating that it's an introductory session. We're going to focus on insights, what they are, how to find them and maximise them to have greatest impact when using assignments or simply your wider teams with learners. This afternoon, we're going to look at what your team's settings may be and some key features within Teams that you may not yet be using. These can reduce your workload as well as give greater insight into how your learners are engaging with your team. Following on from a quick overview of assignments, rubrics and feedback, we'll look at insights and grades and how these can be used to inform that larger picture around a learner. And then we'll look at where you can go for next steps, help and support. As this is an introductory session, I thought it might be useful to give you a few oversights if those of you may be new to using Teams, having come from perhaps Google Classroom or having used other Microsoft products. Teams allows you to have conversations, ask questions and share information easily in a one-stop shop place. It allows you to easily build relationships within your community, school setting or classroom. It can be useful when working in hybrid mode, so a mix of blended learning for online meetings, sharing your screen and video conferencing with others. If you're a subject that uses a lot of data, for example art and design or music, please be assured that there is plenty room for all of your resources within Teams. Each team has a maximum storage in Glow of 25 terabytes. This includes all the resources within your class materials folder. It's accessible on any device and you can upload or create files within it. And the same applies for our learners, meaning there's no need for them to have multiple devices. If they're working from a mobile device, be it a tablet or a phone, they can create a Word document online within their team. They can also collaborate with you as their teacher, or they can collaborate within a group. Equally, if you're in a group with, for example, a working party, you can collaborate with colleagues on planning documents, tools and strategies. You can also personalise the tabs at the top, and these are some examples of tabs that you can create. Some of you may also be familiar with Power BI, and this allows you to create your own apps which can be built in. You're also able to embed documents, resources, and you can link to sites that you may already be using, either websites or SharePoint sites. Integrate your forms, quizzes and polls during conversations in the conversation space of your team or via your assignments. And anytime you create a class team, a class notebook is automatically created. This OneNote doesn't have to be used, but it's already set up for you, ready to go as soon as you need to use it, should you wish to. However, I was thinking, why do we use insights in assignments? Essentially, assignments have built-in insight data that allows us to track engagement as well as attainment. It allows us to see that picture of whether a young person is consistently engaging, look at trends in their engagement or peaks and troughs in their attainment. We can also use it to have a live view of coursework summaries, allowing us to maybe give a classroom prompt if needed to specific individuals if a deadline for a piece of work is approaching. All data from your assignments can be exported. This also includes rubrics, so if you want to create an offline bank of resources, once you've created a rubrics within your assignment, you're then able to take a copy in a CSV file offline. And as it says there, you can create your own bank within Teams and a bank of forms. Forms can now also be grouped, and it might be worth noting here that next week on the 9th we have a session on introducing people to forms if you're not familiar. I thought it might be useful, again, for those of you who are perhaps newer to Teams. Here, when you create a new team, is your landing page on the general channel. Your Class materials are only ever available in the general channel file space, and there's always this pop-up window at the top that takes you straight there. So less confident users, learners with fine motor skills, if you have lots of tabs up there, it may be easier for them to access this larger button. Also, as I mentioned, when you create your team, you automatically get this button to complete setup of your class notebook if it's a class Teams. I'll talk a little bit more about OneNote and Notebook at the end of this session as well. Finally, before we get started on our live demo, I wanted just to flag up this pop-up window. When you select Create a Team, so select Create a Team in the background, you'll be asked to give it a name, potentially give it a description, which is optional. However, one thing that does tend to get overlooked is this option here, use an existing team as a template. This is particularly useful if you have perhaps multiple year groups, but you want to use the same setup formula. So you've maybe tried the teams out last year and you know what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. Rather than having to go into each individual team, you can use an existing team as a template. None of the data goes over with it, none of the users go over with it. However, all of your channels will be there, tabs, etc. If you do choose that option, it will ask you what kind of team, which of your teams for here are class teams that you want to duplicate it. So I've indicated that I want to create class team, and now it's asking me which one I want to make a copy of. Once I've selected them, I simply choose team, and that's when the duplication process starts with the AI built in. Okay, so now we'll just move to a live demonstration. The channel information button. This is indicated by the eye at the top. This button lets you see any members who've recently contributed to your team, and it lets you see any members' activity which has been going on within your channels. This is available for each individual channel. It will let you see any updates colleagues have made. For example, if a learner is saying they're no longer part of the team, you can see if another member of staff has removed them, edited them, etc. You can also see if someone's recently contributed. This means that you can have a quick check to say perhaps they don't have a piece of work to submit via assignments. However, you want to make sure that everyone's checking in with the team on a regular basis. So you may want to give them the option to react to a statement that you've put in or add a brief summary of something that they've learned that week. A list will appear at the side showing you who has contributed. The other option that you've got up here is the ellipses, choosing the More option button. This allows you to edit the notifications that you're receiving for that channel. If you're working in a team with multiple practitioners, you may want to edit the notifications for other channels than the ones that you're particularly interested in. This can be done channel by channel using the 3 options button. If you have a new member of staff or you want to invite someone to join your channel, you can choose the link to that specific channel. This can be handy if you're having a peer review or peer support visit and you want someone to see the team space that you're going to be using in your lesson. To issue an assignment, review returned assignments, or view draft ones that you're in the middle of preparing, you can choose the assignment option. Here it will show you anything that's currently been issued, anything which has been returned, and anything you're working on. To issue an assignment, simply go to the bottom, select Create, and choose whether you want an assignment where you as the practitioner perhaps issues a piece of reading and wants an essay in return, or if you want a quiz using Microsoft Forums within Glow. You can also choose to use an existing assignment and reissue it. The cog allows you to set defaults, as well as if you want assignments to always be appearing in calendars, whether or not you want notifications, and whether or not new students should automatically be seeing any assignments from before they joined the class. To issue an assignment, select Create Assignment, Here you'll give it a title. You can choose to use tags. This is handy when we look at grades. It allows you to pull up curricular areas or any kind of tagging system that you want. But I could add a brand new tag. A tag will only remain once the assignment has been issued. You can also issue a clear set of instructions. This can also be accompanied by supporting work, such as a poster, a piece of reading, etc. So if I choose to upload something from my device, I'm going to choose a poster that supports the work that they're going to be doing. You can also choose to issue points. The points are linked to your rubric. You may be using an existing marking method in class to support your learners completing their work. Therefore, you can upload your existing rubric. You may want to use one that you've issued in a previous assignment and reissue it by selecting it and choosing Next, or you can add a new rubric. Completing the boxes with your description, looking at your marking criteria, you can add columns at any time, and you can also add rows. Here I'm going to add a rubric that I've already used as an example. I've got my title, which I can edit. I've issued the learning intention, which is linked to an experience and outcome, and my marking criteria is specifically assigned to my success criteria. My young people can see which of the 3 categories their work falls into, and it gives a definition of what that piece of work may look like to have achieved each specific area in the success criteria. When I'm happy with that, I can confirm I don't want points, select attach, and my rubric is now available with my poster to support them in completing the piece of work. I'm going to assign it. If I want to choose a different team, though, I can do. And I can choose which students I want. This is just a demo team with only me in it, so I am going to assign it to all students. However, I could, if I have multiple learners in this team, I could choose individuals. I'm going to choose the date that I want my piece of work to be submitted and the time that I want it to be submitted by. I can also, choosing the edit button, choose to assign when I'm going to post about the assignment in the team, perhaps at the end of a lesson when my young people are already with me. And I can choose to have a due date, as you just saw, as well as a close date. A close date allows for a little bit of leeway in the submission date. So you might be saying to the class, okay, I want it by this particular time. You'll be able to see who submitted it on time. But for those stragglers who may not have got to that point, you can also extend it slightly and say, okay, so if they don't get it to me by then, I am actually going to be a little more lenient and I'm going to say I want it. This is the date I want it by. However, this assignment can still be accepted before 9 o'clock. So I'm giving a late hand in. When you've selected all the information that you want, select Done. You may want to choose to add your assignment to calendars. This can be useful if you have learners who frequently forget, or you can choose it to add it to calendars if you have maybe younger learners who are just getting used to this type of system. Selecting who you want the calendar notifications to view means that my young people can go to their calendar when they open up Team and see anything that's available in there for their assignment. They also have their backpack, and that lets them access any assignments which are due in. So I can see here immediately I've got a piece of work and it's past due. It's due in middle of November. When you're happy, select Done. I'm going to change my view now and I'm going to take you into this demo teams. This is a Microsoft demo team because obviously I'm not with a class anymore. When you have your class and you have your class team, you can see here the chat as you'll be familiar with, any information, breakout rooms, etc. My assignments are available here. I can see I have 2 pieces of work out at the moment. One of my 12 has been handed in and 12 of 12 has been handed in, and I've marked 2 of those and returned them. So what that means is I've received them, And these two pieces have had feedback from me. If I click that, I can see what the feedback is in this example. I can also see the two in the returned category. Okay. However, insights. So insights gives you slightly more granular information around who's engaging. So the first thing is the spotlight section. The AI built into Teams allows you to see some key bite-sized pieces of information. So it's let me see that all of my students have submitted their Romeo and Juliet, and it's flagged up green to let me know it's positive. This is red, so it means I need attention, and it's telling me that 2 of my students didn't engage with Teams much last week, if at all. So what I can then do is I can expand on this, and if I find this kind of information helpful, it will flag up to the AI, actually this kind of information is useful, prompt these kind of pieces of information more in the future. It'll also let me know some information around assignments. Again, all of the learners' names that you're seeing here are completely made up. This is an example team from Microsoft. Again, I can say if it's helpful or not, and I can scroll through to let me see. To track student activity, choose the digital engagement section, select track student activity, and here you'll be given an overview of your class. The red dot lets you see that those young people are not active. So I'm going to choose one particular learner. I'm going to choose that I want to see all of their activities, but I could choose just to see when they engaged with meetings or individual files or assignments. And I'm going to choose when I want to look at their interactions with our team. So I want to have a look at it, for example, for the last 7 days. So scrolling down, I can see that my young person is on it a fair amount, but nothing too frequent, demonstrating that they're perhaps anxious. But here we can see they were on this team 3 times in 1 day. So I'm just going to check in with that. And here I can instantly see that this might be slightly concerning. This is showing at 5:30 they were looking at the grading for a piece of work that I had issued. So I would say maybe 5:30 is quite early for my students to be on, and I could maybe start to track that a little bit. But also, I can have a look and see that another one of my students was also on at 5:30. So again, I might want to look at those 2 particular students and see if maybe they were working together on something. I can also see here that this student was on at 1:30 in the morning and then was also on the same day at 10:30 at night nearly. So again, this indicates in terms of pastoral care, perhaps this is a conversation that we want to have around, when we're giving ourselves some downtime. It may start to inform that larger picture around, maybe a young person's demonstrating that they're quite tired when they're coming in, or I'm seeing over anxiousness around their work, and they're perhaps a little subdued, and that might tie in with maybe me seeing them online quite a lot, looking at their work, showing that they're slightly over anxious, or perhaps not engaging with it at all during the day, but having these kind of extremes. So using this activity viewer allows me to see with the insights when my learners are on, what time they're doing it, and what they're engaging with. So, I also could maybe be seeing that frequently a young person's looking at one particular thing. That could be indicating that they're helping other people, but it could also be indicating that they're having an issue. Building that picture up with what I would have seen in class, I can start to think, okay, is this something I need to go back over? It may also be that I'm seeing that I'm not actually seeing them engaging with a piece of work that I would expect them to be engaging with, and I can check in with them to see, do they need any additional help, and so on. Like I say, that's shown me all of my activity, but I may want to just look at their communication. Are they only engaging in the chat, but actually not engaging with any of the files or any of the assignments, and so on. would say that if you're using Insights, the last 7 days is quite a useful overview. It gives you enough of an idea to get a picture of what's going on with the young person without it just being a huge array. If I look at the last 28 days, you can see here that it gives me that picture, but it's not giving me enough depth to be particularly useful. But here is an example of a young person being in, and it's showing me that they're engaging, but they're not selecting how their week was. I can also see what they fed back in with some of the other tools that are available through different Teams tenancies. So that's looking at Insights. So we've gone into Insights, we've looked at the AI prompts, we've also looked at the track student activity, which is what gave me that granular overview, and we can also look at the communications. So if I go back to the last 7 days, because it's Monday, I can see, well, let's go back to the last month. I can see in total how many pieces of communication young people have put in. So I can see if a young person has popped lots of communication in, and again, this is just an example, so hopefully you would be seeing a lot more engagement than this. But this lets me see how often young people have engaged. If they haven't engaged, why have they not engaged? Is it that they've maybe been off? Do they feel not confident enough to maybe contribute online? Is that something that we want to have a chat about privately at school and discuss maybe what I can do to support them as an individual, or is there something concerning them, and so on. It also lets me see if anyone is sort of dominating the conversation as well, and that's a really important discussion to have with that young person too, because people don't want to be getting bombarded. And that brings me kind of back to using those channel notifications that we spoke about. They can also be edited from the 3 dots at the left hand side of your screen, and you can personalize them here. It's important for us, not just as teachers, but for us to highlight this to young people too, so that they know that they have the right to edit the notifications they're getting, and that they don't feel completely overwhelmed with all the notifications going on in all their different teams. Again, you can also choose a customizable range for this, just like you could in the Insights engagement tracker. So choosing customized range pops up a calendar window, and you can select the dates between. Again, I would say a month is probably the optimum. 7 days or 1 month is probably the most you would want to do. At the bottom, you'll also see that we have assignments data. So this lets me see quickly an overview of what's going on with my class. I can check assignment status for anything that's current. So I can see what I've issued, how many I've issued it, how many times it's been viewed, hopefully they're similar, who's turned it in, and so on. I can also choose to load more assignments. Thinking back to our student who was online at 1 AM, I'm in physical science, but I might want to go to my colleagues in the maths department, and I might want to have a conversation with them around that particular student that we saw. So I might ask them to look at their Insights data. So again, if we go down and we find Mateo Gomez, and we're going to go for the last 7 days. We select here. We can see that same student that I was seeing was on early at 3:33. And if we scroll down to find Mateo, we can see we're not seeing the same trends for him here. If we extend the date just ever so slightly, we're again not seeing those timelines. So that indicates that it's perhaps not all across the board, it's maybe one subject. However, we did see a trend with our learner Brianna, so we may want to have a conversation about Is there something going on at home that we could support with? Is there a need for a quiet space during the school day for that young person to work on things so that they're not feeling like they're having to do it very early in the morning? So insights data in Teams can help inform that larger picture. It's available in any class team. To access it, you go to Insights. The top spotlight bar will give you a quick overview, as will the overview, engagement boxes and assignments boxes. The last thing I want to show you in here is about grades. So obviously we've seen who's handed it in. We can access that through our assignments backpack. We can access it through our assignments tab in the menu, but we can also check it over via our grades. So this gives us the headline of the title. It lets us see if a piece of work was handed in or not, and it lets us see the score that was awarded. I can export any grades data to Excel, meaning I can then hone in on it. I can use it to inform that larger picture, or I can share it with my senior leadership team. Looking at my algebra, going into grades, here I can see slightly more information, and you can see the only other thing that leaves me to show you is, so I'm able to customize the settings for my whole sets of teams rather than just individual channels. Selecting my icon at the top right hand corner, by right clicking it I get a pop-up window and select Manage Account. Here I'm given another pop-up window and I'm going to choose Notifications. It's within here that I can choose to have a summary email generated, which type of notifications I do or don't want, and personalize other settings. I can also look at much more detailed settings in here as well. So again, this is maybe something that you would maybe raise with your young people or with your colleagues, but it's important that we don't all get overwhelmed with all of the notifications and that we make it as user-friendly as possible. For next steps, so Microsoft has a range of free professional learning resources available to you, including coursework that you can do, and you can get digital badges for your professional learning. These are 2 courses and the PowerPoint is in the file space of our training site. Once in, you're able to see a range of different courses and you can choose pathways, learning plans and different programs, all of which are free. There are some on OneNote, so if that's something that you think, okay, I'm familiar with Teams now and I feel comfortable with Insights, I'm ready to move on to using Class OneNote, there are lots of resources available for that too. I always try and share this. So as you can see here, everyone within a class team has their own private section within a Class OneNote that's generated. It means that the practitioners or team owners can see into each individual section, but learners can't see into each other. The same applies for staff OneNotes. So the staff owners see all of the sections, however staff don't see into each other's unless they are an owner of the team. In the PLC, it's everyone sees everything. And in other, no OneNote is generated. Some other useful links from Microsoft. Here is a quick video on rubrics, some quick courses that you may be interested in, and a Microsoft Teams playlist that is again maybe useful to you to know about. DigiLearn Scott, the team that I'm part of, also has a huge range of professional learning material available to you on a whole range of tools, including Microsoft Teams. Select DigiLearn Scott, Professional Learning and Microsoft 365. If you haven't already seen it, Glow Connect has a huge range of resources. Some of it's more technical. However, in the Help with Glow, there's a wide range of resources designed to support you with all of the Microsoft 365 products that are there. There's also information and guidance around password, who should have accounts and password, and using Glow. And there's a really useful section in there about who can have Glow accounts and information that you can share with parents, as well as the Glow community rules about what is and isn't allowed. Also, if you ever get locked out of Glow or you have issues with Glow, this shows you in the Glow key contacts who your local authority Glow representatives are or how to contact them. As well as that, you also have the live service status update. So if you ever hear someone saying, oh, Glow's not working, it could just be your network, or it could be a multitude of reasons. Going to Glow Connect using the service status lets you see exactly what's running or if there are any issues, and that's a live system. So I would highly recommend that you check that out. You can use it from the Glow Launchpad. If you choose the last Launchpad, it's there under Glow Connect. That just leaves me to say thank you very much for joining us today.